Welcome back to the Farm Show on Westplex Talk 1045. It is Saturday, January 17th, 2026. Beginning last weekend, and running through this past Wednesday was the American Farm Bureau Federation annual convention, this year held in Anaheim, California. On Monday, USDA Secretary Brooke Rollins spoke, and we're going to play just a few of the highlights for you here today in B Block. After some pomp and circumstance, and frankly some relatively inconsequential comments, with all due respect to Secretary Rollins, the Secretary got into the heart of the speech. She started off by talking about the current state of agriculture and its value.
Our farmers not only feed and fuel and clothe us, you all bear and sustain a set of values and principles that is essential to the continuation of our republic. More than mere producers of commodities and economic actors, you are the bearers of a way of life and custodians of the great American experiment. Like the pioneers who settled this great nation, our farmers and ranchers build civilization from wilderness and fulfill our amazing God's command to till the earth, renewing our national inheritance of liberty for the next generation. And that is why all of America is under threat when American agriculture is under threat.
And let's be fair, it wouldn't be a speech from a Trump administration official if it didn't mention sleepy Joe Biden. Secretary Rollins even reaches back a little bit further than Joe Biden and references Barack Obama too. Have a listen.
The previous administration, failed policies and failed leadership crushed our family farms. According to the latest USDA Census of Agriculture, we have lost over 140,000 family farms in just the last few years. The last administration and the one prior to the first time we were in with Trump basically hollowed out our heartland, our factories, and our farms. We had the cost of doing business, especially in the last 4 years, increase drastically while commodity prices slumped. The cost of inputs, and you all know this the best, exploded. Between 2020 and when we returned about a year ago, fuel and oil costs increased 32%. Labor increased 47%. This is just in 4 years. Interest rates increased 73%. The cost of fertilizer, feed, etc., all went up exponentially. This is unsustainable if we are going to continue the great tradition of farming in this country.
Secretary Rollins went on to acknowledge tariffs and trade and also the new farm bill.
It is also incredible to think that while those cost of inputs were skyrocketing, not one new trade deal was struck in the years between 2020 and the end of 2024. As a result, our agricultural trade deficit deteriorated dramatically, shifting from a surplus as we left the White House for the last time in early January of 2020 to a predicted $50 billion agricultural deficit just last year. Thankfully, due to a lot of hustling around the world by the president and our team, that number is actually going to come in around $41 billion. So we were able to cut that deficit but $9 billion, but $41 billion is still a long way to go. We're also forecasting, though, this year another significant drop to about $37 billion for 2026. Again, making progress, but so much work left to do. Also, since 1933, every president has had a farm bill enacted during their presidency except one, and that was the last administration. Congressional Democrats in the last administration's policy agenda really focused on a lot of other things like DEI and Green New Deals and climate change hoaxes than passing and signing a farm bill to strengthen crop insurance and to strengthen the farm safety net, which are meant to help producers weather the natural disasters and the market downturn. Because of this, you, our farmers, were left with heavier debt loads and fewer tools to mitigate those risks. But on January 20th of last year, almost exactly a year ago, that all changed.
Rollins then called out some of the big wins from the previous 12 months.
In less than a year, the administration, while not perfect and so much left to do, but if you don't mind, I do want to take just a moment and walk through all of the work and I believe a lot of the achievements that were done in the last year. Having delivered more targeted support, faster relief, and opening up more markets than the last administration managed to do in 4 years. President Trump is rebuilding the farm economy by focusing on what matters: lower costs, reliable financing, stronger markets, and fair trade. As you all know, I'm sure many of you were watching very, very closely the deals that have been struck over the last year, whether it is new beef access into Australia, more rice into Japan, the UK, the EU. Just yesterday, I'm on the phone almost daily with our U.S. Trade Rep, Jamison Greer, as well as Secretary Bessent, our Treasury Secretary, and Secretary Lutnick, our Commerce Secretary, as they are out negotiating these deals. We have another at least dozen more that we'll be announcing in the coming weeks to a month. And that is on top of all that was achieved recently in the last year. Thanks to the hard work, we closed out 2025 with serious points on the board. I know we're in California with a lot of specialty crop producers. I'm going to talk about that a little bit today as well. But tree nut exports were up 11% over the last year. Ethanol up 11% in exports over 2025, through 2025. Dairy exports. How many dairy farmers out there? Got a lot of good news in dairy. We're up 15% over 2025. And corn exports. Any corn farmers out there? I hear you. Up 29% over the last year. But y'all, this is just the beginning. And I have no doubt that we will continue and score even bigger wins for you, our beloved farmers and our producers in 2026.
If you're just joining us here on the Farm Show, we're playing select clips from USDA Secretary Brooke Rollins and her talk at the 2026 American Farm Bureau Federation annual meeting held beginning last week and leading up through Wednesday. Secretary Rollins actually spoke on Monday. You can find the full speech and all the conference materials by going to YouTube and looking up American Farm Bureau Federation. Brooke Rollins then went on to discuss some of the key highlights of Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill for farmers and ranchers.
While the president is expanding markets for American agriculture overseas, we are working day and night to strengthen the domestic safety net here at home. A massive source of relief, hopefully for everyone in this room, was this past summer when the president signed the One Big Beautiful Bill into law. The largest working and middle class tax cut in history, the largest. Across the country, real take-home pay on average will increase up to $10,000 for a family of 4. This is real money. Increased reference prices for the first time in over a decade. Is that good news to a lot of you in this room? Crop insurance improvements, enhanced coverage, and lower premiums, saving producers an estimated $400 million a year, and expanding the new and beginning farmer definition and premium benefits from 5 to 10 years. We made in that bill the death tax exemption permanent for almost 2 million family farms and indexed it to inflation. We made permanent the 20% qualified bonus income deduction, full bonus depreciation, and the $15 million per individual estate tax exemption. It also included 100% immediate expensing, allowing farmers and ranchers to deduct their capital-intensive business investments, and as well as extending the 45Z biofuel tax credit through 2029. All in, that bill represented a $250 million investment in rural America. And I can't, whether you are Republican or Democrat, conservative or liberal, whether you are in a red state like Texas or a blue state like California, none of that matters except to know that for the first time in history, we had the largest investment at a time when that bill was focused on shrinking government. So I hope everyone realizes that this incredible win for rural America, while at a time where we're working to return power to the people, to shrink the size of government, to have more money in your pocket at the end of the day and less in the government coffers, but to also realize that this investment into all of you in rural America is one of the top priorities of our administration.
Secretary Rollins went on to describe some wins for dairy farmers, and then eventually got on to the hottest topic, which are bridge payments.
We want to give our children, your children, every opportunity to thrive in rural America, every opportunity. And we want to ensure that you all, our producers, have what you need to thrive and therefore build your business and take care of your family. In that vein, thanks to another provision today in the One Big Beautiful Bill, starting today is the day dairy producers across the country will be able to sign up for more affordable and robust coverage under the Enhanced Dairy Margin Coverage Program. That's happening today. And also today, we are beginning the process of adding up, the USDA back at the headquarters in Washington, is adding up to 30 million new acres to the ARC and the PLC programs. This is the first time base acres have been added to those programs since 2002. So it's very long overdue. So again, hopefully more good news for so many of you. As a result, starting crop year 2026, more American farmers will be protected against market disruptions and downturns. But we understand that many of you and your neighbors and your family can't wait for these improvements, these new reference prices to kick in, that securing finances now remains paramount in order to put next year's crop into the ground. And that's why we are doing everything possible at USDA in the near term to ease those tensions. Just last month, we announced our Farmer Bridge Assistance Program, consisting of $11 billion in targeted support to American row crop farmers who have been harmed by production and market disruptions. And I know many of you have followed this and watched it closely. The original intent was to only build a bridge for those who were potentially harmed by the ongoing disputes, shall we say, with China. But after looking at all of the numbers and understanding how deeply, deeply distressing it is and how deeply distressed many of our farmers are out in farm country, we obviously made some adjustments to that original vision. Eligible farmers can expect payments to hit bank accounts by the end of next month, carrying them to the next season while purchasing commitments and new trade deals take effect and input costs come down with new reference prices hitting next fall.
Hey, Brooke, what about rebuilding the herd?
We've also been actively working alongside rural America to restore small, local, and regional operations and build back our amazing U.S. cattle herd, which, as we know, is at a 75-year low. The USDA plan for American ranchers and consumers is strengthening U.S. cattle production by streamlining permitting and authorizations, enhancing predation support, and opening up approximately 5 million additional acres of vacant grazing allotments nationwide. This is about investing in the supply chain that works for ranchers, making beef affordable and accessible for consumers, and building demand along domestic supply, and keeping rural America alive and better than ever before.
And of course, when you're in California, you have to talk about the high cost of labor.
I mentioned earlier that unfortunately, due to the long-term effects of Bidenomics, input costs are still way too high, but we are committed to bringing them down. For example, one major input cost has been labor, which I know many of you, especially farmers in this state and other states, are very, very familiar with. As I mentioned at the beginning of my comments, labor under the 4 years of the last administration increased 47%. But the Trump administration continues to take bold action to ease regulatory burdens that hurt our farmers and drive up the cost of labor, starting with the H-2A program. Our Secretary of Labor, Chavez Jarimer, and I have been working on this issue since the beginning of the administration. The Department of Labor last month issued their interim final rule to change the methodology to establish the adverse effect wage rate for H-2A program, delivering much needed relief to many of you across this great country. This change will save our farmers over $2 billion in labor costs alone every single year.
The secretary went on to detail some process improvements with visa paperwork, and we're going to jump ahead to the secretary discussing foreign-owned companies and anti-competitive behavior.
We all know that anti-competitive behavior, and we have not been shy about talking about this either, especially when carried out by foreign-controlled corporations, threatens the stability and affordability of America's food supply. Food supply sectors, including meat processing, seed, fertilizer, and equipment, have similar vulnerabilities to price fixing and other anti-competitive practices. We will determine whether any anti-competitive behavior, especially by foreign-controlled companies, increases the cost of living for Americans, increases your cost of doing business, and we will address those because they are a threat to our food supply and to our national security.
Secretary Rollins went on to discuss some of the efforts the Trump administration has taken to fight California's Proposition 12. We're going to skip through those comments, but I do want to include a swipe at a potential 2028 presidential candidate.
Thankfully, the Trump administration is standing up against this overreach. Last year, our Department of Justice filed a lawsuit against the state of California, Governor Gavin Newsom, Attorney General Rob Bonta, and other state officials. These oppressive actions cannot be allowed to continue. Freedom must win the day for the good of consumers and for the sake of our farm economy, which has an abundance of wholesome, healthy food just waiting to reach the market and end up on dinner tables across the nation.
And we're running right up against break here, but I do want to include Secretary Rollins' comments about biofuels.
In contrast to Governor Newsom's antics, President Trump has been opening up market opportunities for our farmers left and right. That mission has also made him arguably the most pro-biofuels leader in history. On his first day in office, he declared a national energy emergency and identified year-round E15 as a solution for extending fuel supplies and reducing pump prices.
Okay, we're going to have to cut off the secretary's comments right there. If you want to hear the full set of comments from Secretary Brooke Rollins, you can go to American Farm Bureau on YouTube. Stick around when we come back for C Block here on January 17th, 2026. We will be discussing cover crops.